Herzlich willkommen zu Music Talk, dem Music- und Sound-Production-Podcast aus Berlin.
Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu Music Talk ausgefragt. Heute bin ich in Berlin bei der Avid Creation Tour und habe einen wirklich erfahrenen, erfolgreichen Produzenten hier neben mir. Das ist der Jacob Hellner aus Schweden. Hallo.
Hello, hello. Nice to be here.
So, for those who do not know, you are the producer of Rammstein.
Yes, that's my claim to fame.
Okay, great. Yeah. But how does a Swedish man get the job of being a producer of a German band?
I was many years ago producing the Swedish act Clawfinger.
Oh,
Early, combining rap and metal, and at that time we were really, I was in the hip hop world, but grew up in the rock world. So I was, in those two worlds were kind of meeting, and we run into Clawfinger, who were building up something, and we did that record, and we were so right on time with a new fresh thing, and they were quite quickly became very successful in Germany.
Oh, so they thought, oh, we'd like to have the sound of this guy.
And Rammstein had just been signed by Motor in Hamburg, and they needed a producer, and they felt that they needed someone from the outside.
Okay.
They wanted international sort of touch to it.
All right.
And they had been in touch with some English guys, and then
they got you.
And they heard the Clawfinger stuff, and they really liked that.
Okay.
And I was contacted by someone at Motor, and they sent me some demos that were,
you know what is funny is I know the guy from Sony Music who turned Rammstein down and signed us, which was definitely a bad deal. Really, what I'm really anxious before I forget to ask you is, when I first heard the first Rammstein records, the guitar sound was so different and new, and what amazed me was the way how it was rhythmically set, and how it was so much staccato. And I was told it's done using gates and stuff. Is there a technical trick, or do they play it like this?
They play it like this. We have two very good guitar players in this band. Overall, they're fabulous musicians. This is a really main thing. And it's played. There's no magic to it apart from the fact that the sound comes from two sources. One being a very loud rectifier, which is kind of the analog side to the sound, and the other is the SansAmp.
All right.
And it's just those two combined.
And is it a lot of Pro Tools sample edit? Shifting stuff around beat correcting and quantizing.
They play.
Okay, because I saw them live here in Berlin, and I was going, I'm not sure. Can they really be that tight? Or is it playback? And it's live.
No. This is a really good band. There's a reason why they become so successful. They're really good, and. So it's all, it's a very sort of traditional way of working, the way I work.
Is it really like they play together the playback?
No. It's of course it's one at a time, and I really sort of push things until I have a performance that I really like, and it's a lot of work. It's not that they
so it's one by one, and it's not like they come together.
Of course it's like this, but it's not like, even though the riff is the same throughout the whole song, usually, or with some variations, it's rarely there's the occasion, but it's never sort of a copy-paste thing. You just make the effort to. Now we record the first section of the first chorus of the riff, and then we go to the second chorus.
That's interesting because I did a small podcast on the subject where I said. When you just copy patterns, they have no sense of what's going on around them. They're sort of mindless patterns, and you shouldn't just copy something from the beginning to the end, because emotionally, after 3 minutes, you're in a different.
And even if the same riff, the drummer is playing, he might have switched from one hi-hat to the other hi-hat, or he's gone maybe playing on the right at the second half of the chorus, or whatever. There are all these, as you say, color changes that brings the song forward emotionally, and the musicians has to lock into that.
And it's all Pro Tools?
Yes, I'm not since my first Pro Tools project was when we mixed their live DVD Völkerball. And since then I work in Pro Tools, and we have during the production quite a few workstations. Some of us work in Pro Tools, and some work in Logic. From some of the sequencing stuff, the band works.
So there's pre-production?
Yeah.
Okay.
Massive pre-production, months of rehearsal, years of songwriting.
All right.
It takes, this last record, from my first meeting to a finished album, was about 18 months.
Oh, Jesus.
And they had spent a year before that writing.
Oh, no. Because we discussed that. Sorry if I interrupt you, but that's something we discussed in our podcast last week, was that you should put out a lot of material and then get away with all the bad bits, rather than trying to have one idea and try to work that one idea. How is the process with Rammstein? Do they come up with 100 songs, squeeze it down to 10?
There is a lot. I probably heard at one stage there was probably 30 songs floating around, and their process, which is kind of common in the world of harder music, I guess, is that basically a song is an instrumental. The vocals come in quite late in the picture, even though I talked to someone who was working from some English band in this genre, and they basically mix the instrumentals and then they put the vocals on. It's really so. But the band works at instrumentals, and that has a certain mood or whatever, and that triggers the singer to come up with vocal ideas, and then he does this. Then it might go back to the drawing board with the band, and they rework it. So it's you slowly build something up.
Is the first thing the guitar riff?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, it can be, they have various members bring the components, so to say. Some might just bring a sequence, but usually I would say someone brings in a riff. But it could be a chord sequence or just a program sequence or whatever,
Okay, and then you take the pre-production, put that into your Pro Tools, add the guitar recordings, and then it goes back maybe to them, and they work on your Pro Tools files. Maybe?
Yeah. We track the band in the rehearsal room, with 8 tracks, and that sort of goes into the session. So we have a reference point on how it was played, and then we have all the MIDI stuff turned to audio files, and so that when we go into the studio, there's already like 30 tracks, 20 to 30 tracks of stuff
already there before they start adding dubs. Okay,
and then we do, but then as we go along, I will remove stuff, of course. Then once we've done the drums, I don't really need to go back to the demos. But the demos are good to have, as a point of reference. We do something in the rehearsal room, it feels good, and we want to sort of remember what it was that made it feel good and how we played it.
Rehearsal room?
Yeah.
So you're not rehearsing in the studio?
No.
Okay, all right.
We work in the
So it's 3 parts. It's pre-production, maybe the members at their own home studio.
But they have work in the rehearsal room. Is they write at home, but I mean all the work is done in the rehearsal room, and they write, and we do the pre-production there. And once we come to a point where I say, okay, now we have those 30 songs are boiled down to 20, let's say, and we have maybe 15 with vocals on, but we like the other 5, so we're going to record them anyway, and maybe he will come up with something later on.
Okay.
So then we come to a point where we said, okay, no more songwriting, now we go into rehearsing.
Okay.
So now we got to rehearse the song and really get a feel for how the song should flow in the rehearsal room, and that is documented.
Guys, rehearsal.
Yes.
Very important. You need to rehearse.
Pre-production is the most important part.
Okay.
From my perspective, and when I make records, pre-production. If you don't do your pre-production right, you will have problems later.
Okay.